Good morning, good morning, good morning, and happy Cinco de Mayo on this Monday, May the 5th. Jonathan Turner alongside Mr. Nathan Wengler. Excited to have you wherever you're watching, near and far. And hopefully you're nearer than farther and farther than near.
Not that it matters. As long as you have an internet connection, we should be right in your living room. So we're good to go. I always
Or
wonder
in your lap. I mean, is that right? I mean,
it's
or in your
fair.
hands, right?
I always
Yeah.
wonder if people like internationally watch this show. I wonder if there's anyone not from here that watches what we do. I know we got random Aussie that drops into our comment section from time to time, but I'm curious if there's anyone genuinely not from the United States because I used to do my own show and we would get people from like Thailand, Germany, Poland. I think we got like a Japan, a Switzerland in there at one point. I don't know how. I don't know where they found our show. I don't know what they wanted from us, but yeah, they were in there. So I got to guess. You got a crop that isn't from here. So hello from across the pond.
I just can't shake this cough. I'm trying, man. I'm trying extremely hard to shake this damn cough. It is not going away. And it was funny. I was watching something the other day. I don't know what it was, but someone was saying that the United States, when it comes to medicine, are the tops in acute care. So your acute care would be like, you get hurt, go to the hospital, emergency room, get fixed, go back home, right?
Yeah.
That were really terrible in like long-term care.
Okay.
Like there's a long term. Like we're not
Okay.
great at like holistic, long term taking care of people. Like that's not our thing. Right. That's what they say. I don't know how true or not true that is, but
Okay.
but anyways, so if you get sick and you're hurting in the United States, you're in a great place. But if you have a long term health issue, they say good luck. Like,
is there a reason for that? Maybe just because
I don't know.
the cost of stuff adds up over time.
Well, it's I can't shake this cough.
Damn people.
I think we live in a world here in the United States where we don't have a lot of patience, right? And we also live in a world where everybody wants something new and they wanted it yesterday, right? So I think that probably has a lot more to do with it. I also think that there is money in keeping something going, right? There's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm just saying there's a lot of money in not solving the problem, but maintaining the problem.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
Managing the problem.
I mean, anyways, I don't want to get into that, but I just thought it was a very interesting thing. We had a really busy weekend this weekend. I think we had a total of 16 total broadcasts this weekend. It's just going to start getting busier and busier. And what I have to say is I got to pat ourselves on the back here a little bit. Okay. We are operating with brand new staff, right? And there's a lot of moving pieces in what we do. Okay. There is. I mean, we've got camera operators from around the country who are now responsible for getting us feeds, right? We have producers and commentators here internally and out in the world, right? That's what we have. I mean, think about this, right? On Saturday alone, right? You had a game Saturday. I think it was Saturday night. You had a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were doing the. I'm not sure what was the actual game you did on Saturday. I forgot what you did.
It was Silicon Valley. It says League for Clubs. They
so
yep.
10 o'clock at night. All right. So you did your game at nighttime. You were in Grand Rapids. The game was in Northern California, being produced here. I had the Michigan Stars game on Saturday night, which it's the first game I've called since the previous week where I lost my voice. I feel pretty good about that broadcast. 4 goals in total. Rocco Galati had a hat trick in that game. Right. I know that Zatuna, he was a goal away from a hat trick in the game on Tuesday against Imlay City. They ended up scoring, and think about this, in the 2 games that they played this week, they scored 11 goals, allowing 1. So not a bad week for Michigan Stars U23s. Detroit Badgers, on the other hand, they they struggled this weekend. They lost 4-0 on Saturday, and then yesterday in their home opener against Detroit, I think they ended up falling 3-1 in that game. I'm sure the coffee firm might know better than me. They opened up their kind of season with some friendlies this weekend. Again, Detroit, it was like that 3-game tournament with Lansing Common. It was Detroit Badgers. It was Lansing Common, and I'm forgetting the third team. In that, maybe the Michigan Jaguars. I'm not sure. And again, if the coffee firm could let me know, that'd be great. But they had they're kind of like their friendly. They just played like three mini games, I guess, so to speak. Troy United. There we go. Thank you. So Troy United, who's I think is entering their third season now in the Midwest Premier League. They had a better showing last year. I didn't know that Detroit really fell off the map last year. They fell all the way down to 7th after winning it the year before. I guess I didn't pay attention to that last year too much. That's on.
They're going to get knocked down a league.
West, yeah. Now they're West, I know that they're trying to do this whole pro rel in Midwest Premier League, but they're doing that, I think, in the Heartland, division. I think is where that kind of pro rel will happen. Okay. But here in Michigan, you've got just the East and the West. So
right.
Yeah, you're gonna go travel and you're gonna go west.
Get out of here.
You've been relegated to the West,
you rascal.
Right? But yeah, no, I think that's it kind of sums up. I mean, just we had 100% of our feeds come in this weekend, and 100% of our broadcasts go off. That is, I'm going to give that a round of applause for our that 100%, man. We aim for 85% efficiency with feeds. And you might say, John, that's 15%. That's not good. Well, there's a lot more moving pieces.
There are a lot of things that come with that. A lot of moving pieces.
Yeah. Yep. I am wearing my Oak University hoodie today, and I wanted to touch base about this. If you don't know, not only do we obviously do our National Soccer Network and, yay, but we also are, obviously the production company, Premier Media Group, is the production company for Oakland University. And, we had 5 broadcasts with them this weekend, right? So on Friday, we had baseball. Saturday, we had baseball and softball. And then on Sunday, yesterday, we had a baseball game. And those games are on ESPN Plus, so you can watch those to your heart's desire until they remove them off of there, which is pretty quickly. So get there while you can. But I'll be the first one to tell you that Nathan, that whole like process of taking over broadcasting in Oakland has been one of the most, exhilarating and infuriating experiences of my life. It's both, right? Because there's so much pressure to deliver a clean broadcast, but when you start talking about it being on ESPN, that's a whole nother level, right?
Right.
And something that we were able to do this for Oakland that has never been done before was be able to do simulcasts, meaning you could do 2 broadcasts at once, and we've done that now for them at least 3 or 4 times I think 3 times this spring, and then a couple of times during the late fall into the volleyball baseball season. We did it there, so we've done at least 4 times in total. And again, that's a lot of moving pieces that has never been done before. And most of your schools around the Horizon League aren't able to pull that off. So Oakland is one of the few that can now do that. And then what happened yesterday was something that also Oakland wasn't able to do in the past. Yesterday, I got a notification. Well, every Monday we have a meeting with Oakland about upcoming productions. And we get with them and say, okay, let's look at the weather. Let's talk about broadcast, any possible problems. We work through them. And on Monday, we knew that there was some weather coming in this weekend. And we talked about it. Like, hey, is there any chance that any of these games could get moved? And on Monday, there was no chance things were going to get moved. Fast forward to Friday. We do our broadcast. I get a text message probably around like 7:30 or 8 on Friday saying there's a chance Sunday's game could get moved from 1 to 11. We'll let you know tomorrow by first pitch of our baseball game that was going to, first pitch was at 2 p.m. on Saturday. First pitch comes and there's no notification from Oakland. right? So we're doing the game, and if you don't know a baseball game, they take like 12 hours. So we're in those baseball games for like 12. They go on and they go on.
Some of them
and go
do.
on and on. They're fun to produce because you're with 4 cameras. You're going back and forth with these cameras. It's fun. So Saturday comes, and whatnot, and get to the game. It's 7:30. I'm in the broadcast for Michigan Stars. Okay, I'm in the broadcast. I get a text message at 8:04 on Saturday night from Oakland. Facilities has decided to move the game from 1 to 10 a.m. on Sunday. So, I'm texting Bianca, who's in charge of all of our scheduling. She does a fantastic job for us. I go, we need to get our crew. She was ready to go. We are dark. Everything is dark from our crew, like literally up until almost 11 o'clock. We are complete darkness. I'm texting Oakland saying, I don't know if we can pull this thing off. I mean, and the reason they were going to do it is because it was, I don't know if we all knew it was going to be a monsoon yesterday, but it ended up being a monsoon. But we start getting text messages from our camera operators. 1, 2, 3, we're good. Boom. They're good.
Okay.
Now, we also need producer, we need commentator, we need graphics, and we need someone on site whose their sole job on site is just to make sure everybody is good and checked in and everything. All right. Oh my gosh. My daughter just texted us. My daughter just texted us just in the middle of this. And I got to say it. We talked about it a few weeks ago, and I know I'm totally cutting into the story here, but she was just accepted into the National Honor Society. So she was invited, and now she was accepted into the National Honor Society, right? So congratulations, Brianna. That's my daughter.
Let's go. Let's go. Great producer too.
Yeah, great producer. My wife was saying there's a fee. What's the dues? I don't know. $1 million.
There's some money involved.
Oh, there's an induction ceremony. They probably put a pin on her too, like the pinner, maybe like a varsity jacket or something. That's cool.
Yeah.
Either way, that's awesome. Congratulations, my daughter. I'm sorry, proud father.
Oh yeah, that's a proud moment right there.
And now, question is, if you get the letter and nobody sees the letter, did it happen?
It doesn't count. For those who don't understand the reference, JT and I were in the middle of a broadcast this last fall, and Nathan, his son, is playing football and claimed he got an interception. And JT went, if he got an interception but nobody saw it, is it still an interception? And I lost my mind. I think it counts one way or the other. I think she's in the archives already. I think we're good, but who knows? But
yeah,
that's impressive. That's not an easy feat at all.
So anyways, congratulations to Brianna, who also passed driver's training this past week as well. So
nice.
That's a whole other thing. So now I got to deal with that. But anyways, back to my story about this change. So we did not have anyone. So one of our producers, Will, I know he goes to bed early. He says it. I'm in bed early every night. And he doesn't answer. He's dark because he's sleeping. And then Corey, our other producer, who's been with us for a long time, he's like, John, I got to be at my daughter's recital. I can't be there. I go. So I knew we had one who couldn't. So I'm going, all right. So I'm like, Bianca, I'm like, I will work. What I'll do is I'll go to Oakland as a plan, plan A. I'll go to Oakland, get everybody set up, and then I'll race over here and get ready to produce this game. Brianna, who is 16, who is one of our producers, she was going to do our baseball graphics yesterday. And if you don't know baseball graphics they can be fun. But anyways, I get a text message at 3 a.m. from Will. He just woke up, by the way. So he goes to bed really early and then wakes up really early, which I guess fun for him.
Old man.
He goes, I'm good. I'll go to Oakland. So I'm like, whew, okay, good. He'll go to Oakland. He'll take care of everything. I just got up a little earlier on Sunday, and got over here and I walked in the door yesterday, about the same time I walked in the door here, about 7:15 yesterday. And we had our camera feeds by 9:30, all good to go. And you know, a really good game. Oakland was up 5-0 going, I think, to the 5th inning. And then Purdue Fort Wayne scored 5 runs. The rain started falling kind of like a drizzle around like the 5th inning. And then it just started to pick up and pick up and pick up. The monsoon. Of course, it was 5-5 going into the 9th inning. And it took 3 more innings after the 9th for this game to conclude. I'm in our producer channel talking to the crew, and Will is going, John, what are we doing here? Like, it's pouring rain. Like our equipment, I go, and I'm talking to our crew. I go, is there anything wrong with the equipment? And they're like, no, we're all covered. I go, he's like, yeah, but it's all electronics. I go, yeah. I mean, if anyone doesn't know, cameras, electronics, water, they don't go hand in hand.
No.
Even though all of our core cabling is water, it's ready for outdoors. It's
right.
But yeah, they monsoon yesterday, and that was fun. That was a fun experience. I'm sure more so for our camera operators than for me, because I was sitting here nice and cozy in the studio. But that wouldn't have happened last year. Right? I want to think about that for a second. And I'm not trying to say this is like on anyone, but like previous to us taking over, this game never would have been on ESPN. Wouldn't have stepped up to get out there. And I'm not saying our crew's not great, but they a lot of times it's like you need to keep kind of go trying to, hey, are you good to go? Are you ready to go? Can we do this? Right, getting on top of people. And this game wouldn't have happened. I can tell you with 100% in my heart. I can't tell you how many games last year were canceled at Oakland or in the last couple of years because for whatever reason. And as a commentator, I used to be out in that environment, right? So I would be sitting out there in this, wide open air, like whatever you want to call it, contraption behind home plate, where you weren't protected from the elements. You were freezing. I mean, everything is frozen. And now our commentators sit in a nice booth here in our studio. They are comfortable. They can see the game in a nice. I mean, you've called the game,
yeah,
right from our studio, calling a baseball game. So you've been there and have done that. That's what it's not a bad environment to call a game, as long as the cameras are on point, and they've been on point.
And you'd be amazed the type of product you can get if you take care of your media people. And that's something that it always blows my mind when I look at some of these facilities. You walk into them, you're like, this was not designed. None of this was designed with media in mind. And sometimes I get it. Like, that's not the focus. When you build a stadium, it's for the players. When you build a stadium, it's for the coaches. You build it for the people that are coming to watch the game. Like, that's what a lot of these places were initially constructed to be, was a good place to go watch a game, because you think our side of the business was not as far along as it is now then. Right. And I could say that the same thing about a lot of the other setups we have. For example, you talked about 16 games this weekend. I think I personally called 10 games in a stretch of 5 days. So I think one Whitecaps game. I also had that game for you guys on Saturday night. But I also did, 8 other college baseball games, so the Wolverine Hoosier Athletic Conference which is a part of the NAIA. They had their conference tournament this week. I know Division I, Division II just wrapped up regular season. They're just getting into it, but we had 2 different sites, right? So we had Cornerstone University, which, if you don't know anything about DeWitt Field, it is probably one of the better facilities in the state of Michigan, if not one of the, I'd say it's probably top 3 or 4 baseball facilities in the state, because the way they built it, the entire backdrop it's all dorms, right? And then they have multiple levels. They have their concourse, they have seating. But they have, turf infield, which is made out of great materials, and the whole thing is great. But the best part about it is that it was designed with media in mind, right? So they have a big, like, middle section. It's not normally a traditional press box, but, it gives you an opportunity to be inside, again, away from the elements. Footy 517, what's up, man? Good morning. But that allows us, right, to be able to actually provide a good product, because we're covered from the elements. We're not dealing with all of that stuff. So that's great. But then you go to the other site that we were hosting it at, the Meyer Sports Complex, and everything's outside. You're kind of in this wind tunnel in the middle, and you got wind at your back all the time. You're out in the elements. You're around all the people. I mean, it's no different than me just being a fan with a microphone. And so you have to work your way around those issues. And what I will say is, in order to make it all work, you have to have a solid group of people who are constantly in a line of communication. And that's the hardest part about your job, right? Because it's also managing all the people. I'd imagine that's the hardest part of what you do, isn't necessarily actually putting the product out there. It's managing everybody that's involved with that. And so that's something that I've seen firsthand, at least with some of the schools that I work with, is that there is that line of communication that's good, and it doesn't force us to be in a position to where we're not going to get things out on time. But that is extremely important. And yeah, I'll give you guys kudos for that. Absolutely. Because like you said, if you take care of your talent and you put them in a good place to call a game and that they're comfortable and they're away from all that stuff, you're going to get a better product. So that's the other beauty of doing the games remotely. Like sometimes we do. Now, I will say, I think the majority of the time I like to be in person. I'm the kind of guy that I like to be there. I like to feel the energy. I like to see things with my own eyes. I realize monitors are great, and obviously good camera people is even better. But I'm the kind of person that likes to be there. But what I will say is that you have to be constant with your communication in order to put a good product out there.
No, it's challenging each and every weekend. Like I said, it used to just be, me having to worry about a single camera operator, myself and one of our commentators, because I obviously called the majority of the games. I don't call majority of the games anymore.
Yep.
And it's not because I don't want to call games. It's because in order for me to be effective and be able to to grow this thing, I have to kind of pass that torch to other broadcasters and give them
Right.
the reps that I otherwise would have taken. And it wasn't about me being selfish, about me being anything, other than, I wanted as many reps as I could.
Right.
And now I don't necessarily need those reps anymore, because I've done so many games that I can just hop into a seat and go. And that's not me trying to like talk myself up. It's just the reality. And then I think the other part of this too is again getting people that chance to step up. We have some really good broadcasters that work for us now. From the standpoint of like obviously you, Nathan, and we've got some new up and coming talent that I think is really, really good in our platform. John Natale does a fantastic job, and so it's kind of cool how this is evolving. And over the next few months, it's going to be grueling. It's going to be really, really grueling, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm dreading it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, it's going to be, it's not for the faint of heart, and
Mm-hmm.
it's something that and this is why I keep saying, and I was just talking about this somebody else, because we talked to all these teams across the country, and every team is different in their viewpoint, and we kind of talked about it a little bit last week about why are teams so gung ho on having it streamed to their platform. Why is that a big deal?
Mm-hmm.
I understand it. It's a brand. You're trying to build a brand. I mean, there's a reason why Lansing Common has partnered with Strange Matter Coffee, right? Their logo is on a coffee, bag of coffee grounds, right? And then obviously the partnership with that also turns into, there's a component to raising money. So, but let's be honest, the money is great, but the branding is more important, because now the branding, and I'm not saying that it's to devalue what they're trying to accomplish, but I'm just saying that the branding is just as important as raising the money.
Right.
Because with the branding, the money will come, right? And if you don't have great, strong partnerships in your local market, it's going to be really hard for you to grow.
Right.
And this is a great product. It's a great idea. And to be fair, I'm kind of not wanting to opening it up, because I kind of want to like leave the bag just hanging back.
Yeah.
There, kinda.
Yep.
But next, but anyways, the idea that you have your own platform, your own network, not your own network, but your own channel, right? That's cool. I mean, it's cool, right?
Right.
And yeah, your highlight videos and all that stuff can go live there, but why are we so obsessed as teams that our games are on our channel, not my channel, but our channel. Like we want it on our channel. Why are we so obsessed with that? I'm curious the mindset, because I asked this question.
I think it has to do with control. But anyways, go ahead.
You think control?
I think control.
Control of what?
Control of what goes on. Control of maybe what's put out there, what's said. I know some of them provide their own commentators. They want their own people in there. I also think it's a product of people have always just gone to the same place to get it. I think people like what they like and they don't like change. I think that's another aspect of it. But I think another big part is control. I think they want to control the message. They want to control the outlook. They want to control maybe the broadcast itself or who's on it. I mean, that's another big thing. And that's the uncertain thing, and even talking to some of the teams that I've talked to, it was the whole thing of, okay, so do we, that's fine. We get it hooked up, pushed it through you guys, but who do we provide in this equation? Because I think some of them are caught off guard by, you don't have to provide anybody. I think we tell them that and they're like, like what? Like that's like, we just have to hook it up and go. Here's the coffee for you, Mr. Peter Mazuik, the early bird.
Strange Matter Coffee is the name of the brand. So Strange Matter Coffee, they're located in Lansing, Michigan. And you can see it right there, the nice logo.
They're saying they'll send you this. They're going to send you some more, so feel free to open it up here at some point.
No, early bird. It's funny. I keep putting this thing on my screen, man, like a lot. But again, Lansing Look at that branding. That's what I'm talking about, right? It's a smart idea, and again, it's obviously a nice little label. But yeah, it's right there. So
good. It's good. But yeah, I think it has everything to do with control. I think it has everything to do with control. I think it has everything to do with keeping stuff status quo. I think they see what we do and they think, okay, there's going to be a lot of work that goes into this. But what we need people to know, and I'll just say this from my perspective, is the simplicity of what the setup looks like is something that really should be inviting to you guys. And that's my solution to this is, if you want to put the game on demand on your own page, if you want to take something from that game and put it on your own page. Now, I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like there's an opportunity to double up there. You could realistically still put the stuff on your own page, but just have us put it on our platform for the live broadcast, for that aspect of it. Just don't do anything while the game's live, and you can do social media and stuff. But I don't know what your inclination or why you believe that they think it is, but I think it has a lot. I think it has a lot to do, mostly to do with control, just trying to control everything that they can, because it is their brand. I think maybe they're protecting it.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at it from my perspective as a production company, I, for the longest time, would walk into team environments and say, yeah, you're just going to be on my platform, right? I'm not going to go on yours, be on mine. And obviously that was me trying to grow our network, right? That's okay.
Right.
And we can argue about growing your team network, but it's not one and the same.
Right.
Okay. They're not one and the same. All right. Yeah. So, but this is the common misconception about what we do. And I think this is important to address this. We don't need to be the commentators in that environment. All right. We don't need to be the commentators.
Yeah.
We don't need to. The only thing that we do in this environment is we accept in your feed, your team's feed, right, directly from the stadium, right, including commentary, right. So, and then inside of our space, we then insert graphics, score bugs, commercials, instant replay, all those things, right? Because if you watch an average, I'll use the Lansing Common as an example. If you watch an average broadcast, they start the broadcast, let's just say maybe it's a half hour before, 15 minutes. And typically it's just kind of a, live feed of the field with maybe like a nice little thing that says upcoming game or whatever. And then the game starts, whatever. Then at halftime, typically there's, again, locked maybe on the score, the field scoreboard, right? And then, or a picture on the screen. And then it comes back and then there you go. All right. And they do a very good job. I don't want to sound like they
Yeah.
don't do a good job. They do
Yeah.
they do better job than
Yeah.
most.
Right.
Okay. But to be fair, the opportunity, right? The opportunity, again, I don't know what they're going to do this year. Maybe they do something different. I don't, whatever. And the cool thing is we work with these teams to help make their broadcasts, better and evolve them.
Right.
And it's not about saying that what you're doing is bad now or it's wrong now. No,
Right.
it's just like, hey, how do we help you elevate it?
Right.
So we receive this feed into our space. Your commentators continue to commentate. I'll give, for example, last night, Detroit Badgers was out at Dearborn and they hosted Inter Detroit. Okay. Now, Colton, who was their play-by-play guy, he was at his house calling the game last night because it was pouring rain. It was terrible weather. And Detroit Badgers was responsible for sending us the feed. We connected with their team. They got us the feed. He called the game from his home. We produced it here in our studios. Boom. Right? That's how that worked last night.
Yeah.
All right. So, and again, there are many nuances, to how this thing could go, but we're not responsible for the commentary for Detroit Badgers.
Right.
So in the situation of the Lens in Common, we would not be responsible for commentary, but we could accept their feed and even pump it back to Lansing Common's YouTube channel for them because I can send it to 30 places if you want me to. It might devalue the overall brand, but I could do that. We could send it back to Lansing Common to our National Soccer Network YouTube channel and then pump it full of graphics, insert commercials, insert sponsors for you on your behalf. And we all handle that here internally. You don't have to worry about it. So it takes the pressure off of anyone at the site having to do anything. Right. And if you want your interns to really get a crash course on how this all works, have them come on down to our studio. They can get in our environment, be a part of it, go back, learn something. Boom. Right. So those are all things that we can provide. But there's this misconception, like I want to just take over. No, I don't want to take everything over. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, but we do provide a consistently, I would argue, high quality broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the camera work is not the best, the rest of it is high quality.
Right. Exactly. I'll even take it this way too, because you said everything that everything that you said just there is correct. And I'll even bring up, I think the Holland Rovers is a good example. I know we've talked to them. They have a young kid that they want to start working into the broadcast. He's doing some TV news here in Grand Rapids. So clearly he has experience in front of the camera, but we always talk about it on this platform, right? The only way to get better at the play-by-play aspect is just by doing it more and more. Like you just get more comfortable. Like I said, with these 8 baseball games I've had this week, like you almost get into, I wouldn't say autopilot mode because you can't really afford to get into autopilot without sounding like a robot if you're a broadcaster. But there's a little bit of that. Like you do it so much to where, you get comfortable with it. The other thing I'll say, though, there's one thing to be said about getting reps. That's important. That's everything. But the whole saying, practice makes perfect, well, we used to say, and I think it's actually more accurate saying perfect practice makes perfect. If you practice the right way, then you're going to get better. And not my issue with this, but the other thing that I would recommend it to teams, that's great. No one wants to not give your intern opportunities. I'm all for new kids getting opportunities because believe it or not, I was in that space at one time too. I was fighting for every chance I could. If I had the opportunity to go do Midwest, Premier League games, 6-7 years ago, I would have jumped at the opportunity then. But I wasn't as connected to the soccer space, but nonetheless, none of us want to turn down those opportunities. In fact, I think that's a better opportunity for growth. I think it introduces more people to the sphere, to the, what we're doing. But the other aspect of this is, as JT did mention, we have professionals that work for this network. We have individuals who have been in NBA arenas, who have been in major league arenas, who have done stuff at the highest levels. And because of that, what we also can offer to these teams, if you have these young interns who want to do play-by-play, is guidance for them. That's 85% of, I feel like, what I do on social media. Like I have 2 conversations coming up later today with kids. I'm going through a reel a little bit later. I might not be as polished in this area or that area, and maybe I haven't done nearly as much soccer as I have the other sports, but I've done quite a bit over my stretch of time, and I've gotten lessons and I've gotten better. we can also provide that for you too. I'm not asking to take the lion's share of games, but if I can be there and not only assist on the broadcast, but be able to make it better from a talent play-by-play perspective. If you wanted 2 commentators, which by the way, I think for soccer, I think 2 commentators is where you want to be to personally. But, yes or no. But all I'm saying is there is something to be learned from that. There is something to be taken away from that. Yes, you can get reps. Yes, you can get opportunities. But what are you doing with that? Are you actually learning and taking something away from what you're doing? Or are you just sending them back out there time and time again? Because you want the best product.
I think more importantly, so like talking with Colton, right? Colton, who said he's done over 500 games in his lifetime and I had a chance to listen to him yesterday. That's a pretty good job. I mean, there are some nuances to this that you got to get used to. But the thing is, I'm like, Colton, I go, you're just doing Detroit Badgers.
Right.
Would you like to do the Stars, the Rovers? Like, would you like to do those games? I mean, because you can do those games. Like, and and he's like,
I thought the Rovers had someone. You're offering them the Rovers?
No, I'm not offering it. What I'm saying is I'm using it as an example. I haven't actually offered many games. I'm just saying that you can do more games. Like otherwise, if it was just you just working with Detroit Badgers, you can just go do Badgers games all summer long. Great, you get 5 games.
Right.
But I have 700 more. So would you like to get more reps?
Yeah.
So. And I'm not like offering up like a Holland Rovers game. What I'm saying is,
I hear what you're saying.
If you want more games,
right,
I can give you more games, and because he's not getting paid to do Badgers games, right? And I would imagine the commentators at Lansing Common probably are also not getting paid, and that's not meant as a thing. It's just that most teams just don't pay their commentators. It's like, hey, can you do this, and it gives you opportunity, and then that hopefully leads to other opportunities. But those same commentators who are calling the Lansing Common game on a Saturday, this past Saturday, who now have the next 2 weeks off, could be working the next 2 weeks, making money, getting reps, watching these teams play, being part of it, and then that. Let's be honest. I mean, the reason why I know so much about the Michigan high school, like boys and girls space is because I called like 190 games over the last 2 years.
Right.
I know these teams, right? I know the UPSL because I've called 400 UPSL games over the last 2 years.
Right.
I know the Midwest Premier League because I've called 75 games.
Yes.
So it's like I know these players, I know this league, I know the teams. And so the more you do this, the more you know. So come on down. Come on down.
Right.
And yeah. So as a matter of fact, I think a couple of years ago, I think there was I'd actually been reached out to by, I think one of the interns or one of the people involved in production at Lansing, and they had asked me for some help in regards to a problem. And I remember I had helped them with that and said, hey, if you ever need help, let me know. I'm here in any capacity. But yeah, I mean, I think it's important to have this conversation because I think teams, we are very protective of our stuff. And I don't want people to think that we're trying to take anything away. Right. We dealt with a production company based out of California for this Afghan Premier game. And I asked him for a clean feed. And he's like, John, I'm not giving you a clean feed. I'm not going to do it. We're not going to do it. They're building their brand in California. And he's like, I've dealt with 100 companies like yourself, and I'm not doing that. I go, okay, well, send me your feed. And we'll take your graphics. Now the league does not want that; they want our graphics to be used. But I took their feed last night, and it was a quality feed. The graphics are, not what I would like,
right.
But it was a quality feed. And there's ways for us to get those graphics out of there. It requires us to have to do some things, and I didn't want to do that because, unfortunately, the graphics they were using are too bulky, and it would just take up a lot of the screen. Yeah. But we accepted that feed, and we inserted our commercials, and our feed got way more views than their feed did. Way more. It wasn't even close. I think it's double, right? Yep. And not that that's a thing, a big deal, but okay. So if I wasn't involved, right? What would your views look like? Probably pretty similar, right? And then and so okay, so how does that hurt your brand?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I don't think it does. I think it actually enhances your brand because now you're in a
Hmm.
place where it can be seen by different audiences, and now they're
Right.
both audiences. One who's used to seeing you on your channel, and the other one who's not, are now getting a chance to see you.
Right.
The exposure,
And what's
and
the
again,
problem with more? That's the other side that I don't get. And that was something that you and I have had multiple talks about over, the weeks and months leading up to this and making these sales calls and talking to these teams. What's the problem with more? We're offering you another avenue, another space, another opportunity to just simply expand. And if your argument is, well, we want to build our own personal page to that level, I just don't. I don't know. I'm not going to say that that's not possible, but I don't know how probable that is. That's the issue with me. Is that, yeah, everybody who knows your page, they know your team personally, they know someone who plays there. Maybe someone told them or texted them, or maybe you posted the link that one time on social media. That's fine. But if no one's following your club directly on social media, or if they're not connected with your club directly, then how would they even know that you're playing or that you exist? The entire point of putting it on our platform is that if we're trying to get everything under one umbrella, you're getting mentioned on our show, you're getting mentioned in the previews, we're sharing your graphics, all these other things. We are bringing new faces to your medium. And that's why you can parlay your own page into what exactly it is that we're doing. And I think that there's this vision, and we chatted about this last week, that a lot of people think that we're in it for ourselves. And there is that element of it. Yes, obviously, I want to broadcast more games. Yes, obviously, I want to make a few dollars while I'm doing it. This is a job at the end of the day. And I don't envy, kids like Colton, who has done great work. I haven't gotten the chance to listen to his stuff quite yet, but for him to step up and do this without getting paid for it, that's great. But at the end of the day, it is a job. So there is that element of it. I'm partially doing it for myself, but the other side of it is that as we continue to grow, as we continue to expand and we add more teams, the point for us is to kind of create, like we said, a one-stop shop. We're not going to take anything away from your personal page. What you have is what you have. And what you want to do with your social media, what you want to do with your YouTube page, do whatever you want with it. And I'm sure you have someone that manages that. But we're not trying to take anything away from that page.
No.
We're just trying to add to it. Now, I think maybe the other fear is that people leave their page to go watch it on our platform. And so maybe that brings some sort of fear, but I don't see the issue in more, JT. I think more is what these teams are looking for. Maybe that's what they were lacking for the longest time, is more. We have the ability to provide that. And so that's why I don't get the hesitation aspect nearly as much.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the other thing too is this is the best way to explain this.
Yeah.
Is that it's really cute when that teenager, that maybe 12, 13-year-old that comes in your driveway, up to your front door in the winter time after that freshly fallen 4 and 5 inches of snow, and says, "Hey, can I do your driveway for $20?"
Right.
Right? It's cute, right? It's great, right? And honestly,
Right.
but then there's that one time that they don't show up, right? And now you got to call a company, right? And now you're going to use that company all the time, because what happened is that 12-year-old cannot come to every time there's a driveway.
He ain't coming back.
Yeah, and so you have to find a professional company, just like your lawn care, right? If you can't do it because you got something going on, you're going to ask a neighbor, you're going to ask your child, you're going to ask, you're going to pay a company, right? All that I'm saying is that there are moments in this process where you are reliant on people to do their job, and sometimes they don't do their job.
Yeah.
And so having a company like us involved, one is we manage that process. Right. So imagine game days, a lot going on. We're the ones having a conversation with this production crew or whoever. We're the ones managing it all from our perspective here in our studios, with obviously we have direct contact with everybody. And if you're paying us, which again, a lot of teams pay us to do this, well, they're putting all that money and effort into the deliverable, which is a good, clean feed. And we do that, consistently.
Yeah.
A lot. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's something to be said about that. But, bottom line is this. We don't want to take anything away from any team. We want to enhance it. All right. And what I'll tell you is this, is that I use Lansing Common as a perfect example. Okay. We, in our environment, could very well take what you're currently doing in Lansing, obviously elevate it. But imagine a situation where, that local sponsor in Strange Matter Coffee, for example, right, that we can reach out and find a way to partner with them as a network. Not necessarily, obviously, you have Lansing Comment, you keep your thing, but we come in and we do our thing. And you guys are a direct correlation to that. That can become in itself a fundraiser for your program, right? Because whatever we can do with Strange Matter now becomes a part of our relationship with Lansing Common. And now whatever they are doing, they can get a piece of that pie.
Right.
Any game that we produce and broadcast onto our platform has a potentiality down the road to pay out dividends back to Lansing Common. So there are things that we can do in that realm that could definitely help out a team in even more prolific way. But be it as it may, there are a lot of teams out there that can utilize our services as well as our platform. And we'll work with teams that do that. And the teams, obviously, that don't, hopefully one day they'll come knocking on our door and say, hey, we want to be a part of this thing. And sometimes that's what it has to be, right? Sometimes you have to go out there, put this all in place, and then make it happen. And either way, we'll be here with open arms in both scenarios. I'm not going to be like, well, I told you so. No, it doesn't need to be that way. Right. I mean, just like I told Nathan to put on sunscreen, it still hasn't worked yet. But either way, with that being said, what I do want to do here is I want to transition into the high school rankings. We did that last night again. Another fantastic show. Dan Stickrat, Patty Cesarini, live last night on the network. Did a great job. We got into all the division rankings for all 60 teams here across the great state of Michigan. We are going to start this week with, again, Division 4. Start there, and we'll put it up on your screen. Here it is. Royal Oak Shrine continues to hang out there at that number 1 spot. They've been number 1 now for, I believe, 4 straight weeks, or is it 3 straight weeks? I'm going to double check here. It is 4 straight weeks. They've been there since week 2. Again, I think in this one in Division 4, we had one team come out. That was Byron Center, Zion Christian. One team go out. That's Granville, Calvin Christian. There were 6 total changes this past week. Royal Oak Shrine is in the midst of a loaded CHSL AA division title chase. That should be CHSL, not CHNSL, but either way. And we have 10-time state finalist Kalamazoo Christian is picking up steam as they stand 8-4-1 overall. Kalamazoo Christian is down 2 spots though from 8-4-1. So, but they're down 2 spots. Take a look here now at Division 3. In Division 3, Country Day, which was last week's number 1, moved down to number 3. Essexville Garber taking over number 1 for the first time this season. I believe it's the first time this season. It is. Let's see. In this division, we had one team come out, Bad Axe, all the way up in the thumb near Caseville, getting the nod at number 15. Freeland.
Bad Axe.
That's bad. Yeah, that is Bad Axe. That's right. I like that. They are in. Freeland is out. 11 total changes this week in Division 3. Essexville Garber. They are 6-0-1 and 10-1-1 overall. We take a look now at D2 here in the great state of Michigan. Hudsonville Unity Christian for the 5th consecutive week is your number 1 in the state of Michigan. They're rolling. They're 10-0-2, I believe. Again, been there for 5 straight weeks. 12 total changes. Nobody moved in or out in Division 2. Richland Gull Lake moved up 2 spots. The biggest change in this one, Otsego, up 6. They were previously at number 12, and they are now at number 6. That was the biggest move. Actually, East Grand Rapids also moved down 6. They were previously at number 8 and are now at number 14. Birmingham Marion, though, is currently sitting in that 4th spot. They're 9-1 with a 38-8 scoring edge so far this season. As we take a look now at number 1, Saline, again, holding strong at number 1. They've been there since day one. They are 5 straight weeks at that number 1 spot. There were only 4 changes this week. I'm not sure if that's indicative of how soccer is being played or if Brian Middlestat just got lazy this weekend. Either way, Brian Middlestat, a big friend of the network. But the team, Saline's 13-1. And we see a battle of number 7 and number 11 this week as Troy High tomorrow night will host Troy Athens. That'll be live on the MI Sports Network. That's our sister company. Streaming platform for all things high school sports here in the great state of Michigan. That game kicks off tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Midland, who was up 1 from 9 last week to 10. Up from 11 to 10. They are 12-0 this season and lead the Saginaw Valley League. Ann Arbor Skyline tied Saline this week as well, as the Eagles are 2-2 against Saline over the past season and a half. Northville did bounce out this past week. Brighton is back in 11-3-0. Romeo moved up 1. Only 4 changes in Division 1. I believe there were 33 total changes this entire week. And there are your top 15 teams from each state. Presented by Just Slabbed and the Coaches Association, the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association. You can check out all those rankings on our website at thenationalsoccernetwork.com. You can also check out the live show from last night, which is, I think, one of the most well-produced live shows of its kind
Right.
and needs to be considered for a local Emmy. I really do think that we should be
go.
getting sports Emmys for that
Let's
show.
put
The
it
show's
in.
unbelievable.
I will say Athens did look good, man. In that game against Grand Blanc, they looked solid, man. Their goaltending is impressive. Miller in between the pipes was really, really good. That could set them up for a lot of success. I'll be interested to see how that Troy v. Athens matchup goes coming up here in a little bit. That's a fun little rivalry in soccer land between those two schools. So they looked really impressive.
I will be calling the game tomorrow night. It is Troy versus Athens, so we're gonna have some fun with that. We'll put the big guns coming out tomorrow night. Big guns.
Perfect.
But
JT, I got a quick question for you before we, unless we got anything else to add about high school soccer. I will say very quickly though, Unity Christian, I don't think they're going to budge, man. I mean, they are rolling right now. And so to see what they're doing is impressive. I'm trying to remember the Michigan State commit that plays for them.
Ava Lutke.
Ava Lutke, that's what it is. Yeah, just maniacal in the way she moves about the pitch. So that's really cool to see. But yeah, a lot of great matchups. Go check out our page. We'll have all of them. Like JT said, we're getting into that busy season. Wanted to ask you a quick question before we wrap things up here, because social media is ablaze with one question, and I feel like we would be remiss to not get involved in this conversation. You might not want to answer it, but you know what? We got to do it because everybody's doing it. 100 men versus a gorilla. Who are you taking?
Who am I taking?
Yeah. Who are you taking?
Okay,
full-grown silverback gorilla. Life or death.
I saw the social media TikTok post last night. So I saw this and
you're like, what?
It's a great question. And I went in here last night. I got our producers, me and Joseph are in here, and I looked at them and go, guys, 100 gorillas and 1 man. They're like, well, does the gorilla have? Does the gorilla have weapons? I mean, or do I have weapons? I go.
No weapons. No weapons.
Yeah. Okay. So no weapons.
No
so
weapons.
You're saying this and here's the thing: is there like this? Okay, I'm trying to envision this, right? When I go to when I go to laser tag, you get into a room, they watch a video. You know, you're getting ready to put the gear on. You're like, oh, you're gonna go out there and fight, right?
Yeah.
Am I gonna get like a preemptive like video to watch where all of us can
on how to attack the gorilla?
Strategize, or are you just dropping me in the field? Are you just dropping me in?
those are good questions. Those are good questions. I feel like if we have a strategy going in, there's probably a chance. And I realize Steve Besk is saying that the one gorilla all day, no question. I think in a random scenario, yes. I think if there's a little bit of strategy involved, maybe there's a shot.
I think the strategery of the moment could allow the human to have a better chance, but especially with no weapons. But I also think, okay, if you gave 100 man and you gave a gorilla just a mallet, I think it'd be over still too. I it's like, but I actually believe in all my heart, you drop 100 men into an arena with one silverback gorilla. First off, I want to stream the shit out of that. And second,
live on the National Soccer Network.
But I actually had my money on the gorilla. Right, hand-to-hand combat. I just, I don't,
there was a great quote once upon a time. Mike Tyson said, "Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face." Right, and that's boxing. Right, that's one-on-one human beings. Everybody has a plan. So even if we're in this room, right, let's say hypothetically, and we're planning out how we're going to attack this thing. We forget the human element of this conversation. I think everybody's like, well, numbers. Yeah, we would weigh him down. We'd all jump on top of him and he'd get worn out. Okay, that's great. That's great. That's great. We wouldn't all be able to get to him at one time. All right, so I'm picturing a universe where Jonathan Turner in this group of people is in front of me, right? So I got to watch JT get to the gorilla before I get there. Now, JT's grabbed by the gorilla. He rips both of his arms off and he throws him about 20 yards, or he just runs straight through him. And now we got to work in the human element here. Fight or flight kicks in. I just saw JT get mutilated in front of me. I don't know if I want to be the next one to go, so I might turn and run, and then, everyone around me's panicking, and now we don't have a plan
Jack
anymore.
Reacher, remember Jack Reacher with Tom Cruise? He's out in the parking lot and goes, okay, I'm going to win. However he said it, the way he said it was like, you're going to go to the hospital. He's like, well, there's 4 of us against 1. He's like, yeah, I'm only going to fight 3 of you because one of you is going to be, you're going to see what happens. They're going to run away.
Right.
And it's like, I just see the gorilla going, yeah, let's go.
Yeah. The most vile thing happened to the first few guys, and now we're all kind of looking at each other like, man, is this really worth it?
I think you should change that up and say 100 men versus 1 bull.
Okay, yeah, that
right?
I mean,
because again, think of it the same way, right? I mean,
might be easier.
Well, maybe because the bull's not as agile, but I mean that bull is in a space where you can't get out of.
Yeah,
it's like that rope. I mean, honestly, I'm envisioning an arena. Like a gladiator arena.
True.
I'm like,
and that's the other part of this. Like, how much room does he have to move around? Because if he has a lot of room to move around, you got to think, right? That's 700 pounds. He can move at 25 plus miles an hour. That's a vehicle, right?
It better be no trees.
Yeah,
I mean, there better be no places in to climb. I mean,
he's jumping from the top rope.
First off, this kind of reminds me of what is Squid Games. This is like Squid Games, right? You're like, all right, well, they've all decided this thing. No one's winning this one. Right?
No.
I mean, the only thing I would say would be a fighting chance is if somewhere in the arena there was like access to 1 shotgun.
Yeah,
something like that. Some kind of like that. It gives you a fighting chance because you're right. I mean, the first you'd have to have like 20 people in a circle running at this guy all at the exact same time, this gorilla, to even try to get it in a spot where, and then again, once the thing starts swinging its arms, I don't, there's
the game plan goes out the window, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, I've never, only in video games and movies have I seen something probably as, visually appalling as whatever the gorilla would do to the first.
Now, if you give us crude tools, I think there's a chance.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, we all have like a rock.
an object, a hammer or something.
I mean, But if we're talking about hand-to-hand combat, nope. Gorilla every time.
Right.
Every time. As a matter of fact, I actually envision the gorilla just sitting there with like a banana, just going like this. Just guys just walking up, just.
The other part is who's going to volunteer to be in the first wave? Who's going to volunteer to be in the first wave?
It won't be Tom Cruise.
You want to be on the front line? Tom Cruise. We just find a group of guys that just has nothing to lose. They're like, fine, I'll be in the front line. Cool, let's do it.
Yeah,
I'll try to wear them down a little
Who's
bit.
Gonna be the zealous?
Yep.
The zealous knucklehead
So
who doesn't
I
know
think
idea.
JT and I are both going with Gorilla in this conversation. Might be a close battle. There's a lot of extenuating circumstances and stuff we got to talk about. What the arena is? Do we have planning time? But yeah, man. I mean, I think fight or flight would kick in, and I think it would get messy.
Now, wait, we didn't talk about this, but if you throw in 100 sumo wrestlers, right? If you,
it's true.
Maybe.
True, but they're not quick. That's the other thing.
That's also true. They are not quick.
What a twisted question. This is very twisted. I don't know. The guy that initially brought this up must feel like a genius, man, because everybody in the world's talking about this, right? We got scientists weighing in on this, like people who actually study gorillas and stuff. They're like, well, here's my perspective. I don't know. I just
It is a science and it's a math question. It's both.
It is true. Yeah. A lot of numbers.
Well, hey, that's a great way to end this show. Hey, so I will not be here tomorrow. I will be passing the torch to Mr. Wangler and Mr. John Natale to handle things here tomorrow. As well, I will not be here on Wednesday today as well. So, but either way, I'll be back here hopefully Thursday morning and Friday morning. But hopefully you guys have a great couple of shows. That was number 77, by the way. So hopefully back here for episode 80 on Thursday. Yes, it was a twisted question, but sometimes in life you got to ask those twisted questions to find the sanity in the moment.
I don't know.
With that being said, that is a wrap here on episode number 77. It is Cinco de Mayo. So if you haven't gotten your tequila on yet, it seems really, but I guess if you're Irish, you would have already been 3 sheets to the wind on St. Paddy's Day. What's wrong with being 3 sheets to the wind on Cinco de Mayo? But either way, it is Cinco de Mayo. So go enjoy yourself. Have a taco. Have some chips and salsa, right? Grab your sombrero and have some fun, right? And have a great day because it's Monday. And, I mean, it looks like it's still pretty crappy outside, but, it doesn't matter. The tequila will make it look brighter, at least for a short time. For a short time.
For a short period of time.
And then it goes gray.
All over again.
JT, 10:30 a.m. Margs, call me. Oh, man. Anyways, have a great rest of your Monday, and we'll see you back here same time, same place on Inside the Game. This has been a presentation of the National Soccer Network.